Welcome to the Scottsdale Vibes podcast. I'm Alicia Haygood. We love to be fit here in Scottsdale, and that's one thing I really like. I feed off of that. I see people out riding bikes, running, hiking. It's just an active city, which I think is so great because it just makes us healthier and happier people, as we've proven over and over again. And one of those people that likes to stay fit and healthy is none other than Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. So Jeremy, welcome back. It's been a few weeks since we last spoke. How are you, friend?
I am doing fantastic in this beautiful Scottsdale weather we have. That's
right?
been like up and down a little bit, but I love it.
It's really crazy.
All good.
We had spring break a few weeks ago for the kids, and my parents came out from Georgia to visit. And of course, they were loving it. It's still in the 30s and 40s at night out there. So I'm not complaining, because the complaining is going to start in the next 2 months, I feel like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Jeremy, we were just talking about staying fit. You love to stay fit. You're a very active person in the community. What do you do to stay healthy? And what are some of your favorite things in the area in Scottsdale that are available for us, you think?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's funny because my definition of health has changed, right? When you're in your 20s, 30s, It may be different than 40s and 50s. So I am 1,000% all about showing up each day. And in order to do that, in order to take care of customers and team, I have to take care of myself. So super proponent of getting outside, staying fit, doing different things, along with, traditional strength training. And I love, if I can't make it outside, I just hop on the treadmill. Doesn't need to be a long time. Could be only 30 minutes or so, but absolutely I think so many people invest other things, and just your health is the one item you have to invest in yourself each day to take care of yourself.
It's such a good physical thing for you to stay healthy. Mentally, it's done wonders for me as well. And we are so lucky that we get to be outside 10 to 10 months out of the year and enjoy that. So we don't have to be on the treadmill, hiking, biking, there are trails everywhere around here. The
Green Belt Canal. Yes. I'm discovering the canal. I mean, I've lived here my entire life. I've never ran on the canal until a couple weeks ago.
How was it?
It was great. There's so much stuff. And they have it's paved with, the lines. So although the e-bikers out there, I got to tell you, I think the runners and the guys on their regular bikes get precedence over those e-bikes.
I'm with you.
That's another story.
But it's one of those things, Jeremy, you made up a valid point. When my parents were out here, we hiked Pinnacle Peak, and it was great. But even my dad was laughing. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's a Pinnacle Peak. You hike down 2 miles, then you hike back to where you started, and you see different things each direction, right? So you talking about being on the canal. It's like every time you go, you're going to see new people, see new things, and there's another way to explore our city and discover things there."
Yeah, it really is a phenomenal. Just the city's done such a good job that. And it's all free. It's just, it's an amazing what they've done with the infrastructure there.
One thing that is important to be healthy, as we all know, and I want you to kind of dive into a little bit. I just started a new life insurance policy with you a few months ago, Jeremy. So thank you for making me do that, by the way. Let's talk about the health of you is very important. Everyone needs to go have life insurance. Trust me when I say that, and call Jeremy at State Farm. But when you're healthier, what happens, Jeremy, for your rates?
Yeah, if you want to, it is amazing. A normal, let's say 40-year-old male or female. The difference between someone who is healthy as opposed to someone who smokes, it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So it does save you quite a bit the healthier you are. And that said, it's a good opportunity. You want to make sure you're insurable. You can't insure someone that has something wrong there. Yeah. So a lot of times we think it's a given that, I'll just get this later. And later sometimes doesn't happen for a lot of people. So now is always the right answer when it comes to buying life insurance.
I love it. Do it. Call Jeremy at State Farm. We always have his information in the description of every episode on our YouTube channel, newsletters, and social media as well. Jeremy, now that the weather is beautiful, tell me, what are you most looking forward to get out and be healthy?
I am looking forward to some of our spring trainers leaving so I can actually drive without seeing so many out-of-state plates. Just kidding. Love you.
Love you, Mina. Thanks for the business,
No, it's a great time right now. I mean, this is our go time. And the area in general has grown so much. It'll be interesting to see what gets done over the summer with all the construction projects going along, not just freeways, but also other buildings and apartment complexes and everything. It's just the town is changing and changing very quickly.
It is. And for all your changing needs, don't forget, call Jeremy Mueller, State Farm Insurance. Like he said, he's born and raised local here, knows Scottsdale like the back of his hand, even though he's still learning of new things. And he has 3 convenient locations here in Scottsdale, so plenty of places to catch him. Jeremy, thank you as always. I'll let you hurry up and get back to work and save us all. So you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust, and that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. Dr. Jesse Greer is a Scottsdale native who graduated from Saguaro High School. He's always been passionate about health and made sure to live his healthiest life. Jesse joined the military where he was deployed to Afghanistan as a U.S. Special Forces physician and a Green Beret. He earned his MD following his fellow soldiers to Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. When I saw Dr. Jesse Greer has seen it all, well, there's not much he hasn't seen when it comes to our health. And after his military service and working for a large medical facility, Dr. Greer wanted to follow his passion with helping others save their lives before they get too sick. So that's where Preamble started, right here in his hometown of Old Town Scottsdale. So Jesse, when we grow up, right, everyone's like, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor or a veterinarian or something like that. When did you realize that health was more than just a passion for you? It was more than just an activity. It was really what you wanted to take to help others in life.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had a good story that said I knew it when I was younger or before I decided to go into medical school. I think, to be honest, sometimes, I was always drawn to it, but, medical school also seemed like maybe
daunting.
Just one of the harder things that you could do. So
I would agree with that.
The challenge kind of stood out to me like, hey, everyone says it's pretty unlikely that you can get in. So, I was drawn towards the challenge and then the idea of medicine, but I don't think it was until I was in, through my training, after my training a little bit, definitely had some questions during my training on whether or not this was the right fit for me, and that's when you're doing things in your residency, working 90-hour weeks and, grinding in the hospital for sick folks. And sometimes it is pretty daunting. And sometimes it seems like you're not doing much to help the greater good of anything. So sometimes it can get quite discouraging. But it wasn't really until afterwards, until I got a chance to go out and practice and then really just see the type of impact you can have on folks. And it was then that it really kind of took off. So, which I think is probably a little bit more meaningful considering how little we know when we're younger and,
absolutely.
Just feed on the concepts of what we think something is, but actually getting to see it and practice it and see changes and really feel a sense of purpose. I'd say it probably didn't happen until, a good 4 years into my medical career.
That's interesting because you're right. Most people know years in advance, like this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go into. You kind of learn more during your residency, what path of the medical industry you want to go into. And I like where you were like, it's still, I wanted to help the people, right? Like I really wanted to help them. You saw firsthand how our soldiers, both mentally and physically, are affected. How did that really impact how you take charge on your health and how you are treating your fellow soldiers, friends, and, people every day?
Yeah, I'd say it had some evolutions. It definitely started as a younger physician and being a physician for the Army's elite soldiers. It's all about performance. Mm-hmm. And,
which is what they were trained to do, performance too, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And that was my job, is to keep them in top performance shape and get them ready for, all the crazy things we would have to do, be able to be in shape, be removed from supply chains and out in the middle of nowhere and stay healthy and stay on top of your game for weeks at a time on missions. But also simple things like getting people to the other side of the world, right?
Yeah.
The effects of jet lag or travel on people.
Yeah.
So there's all these little intricate areas that were interesting to me and to dive into. And that was the time of my life when I was similarly working out hard and interested in performance. So it's always. They say that the things that apply directly to you are the things that you're going to know best and be interested to learn. So that was the truth, and it wasn't really until I got time to kind of be more back in garrison, back in base, and spend time with the guys who'd been on active duty for decades, and the guys who had used to been the elite war fighters and. They get stationed in the back office just like the rest of us do sometimes, because of ongoing issues. But hey, this is somebody who's bled and sweat for this country, and we'll put him in this role while hopefully he's able to recover. People suffering from mental health or just health issues in general. So getting a chance to spend time with those guys, see the futility and the treatments that we had. We always had a good idea, or we always had great new ideas. Hey, there's this new treatment for PTSD. There's this new treatment, and we would try them. And usually, at best case scenario, they'd get some temporary relief from some of their symptoms, but it would always come back. And so it wasn't until then that I really started to dig into the key aspects of this and getting to the bottom root of their cause. And a lot of these guys were suffering from mental issues, which reduce their motivation to continue that lifestyle that they had before, and this onset of chronic diseases, and jumpstarting them back into some type of routine and feeling good and watching the actual improvement way greater than anything we'd seen with any experimental treatments really start to take effect. It was when I really started to get into the preventative side of things as well.
Talk about how your mental capability, your mental health affects your physical health, because that's what you were kind of saying. Once you dive into that, you can kind of see how it affects you physically. Mm-hmm. You started diving into the molecular level of everything, and I want to get into that with you as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, mental health in general is just such a big picture, or it's just such a big category.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
how to define it, but I guess simply I would break it down to there was some large barrier, mental issue, whether it be PTSD or depression or some combination thereof. Right. There's a loss of a personal mission, and if somebody doesn't have a personal mission, whether that's to take care of their family or to be the best at whatever that they're trying to do or to be around for other folks, then they don't take life seriously enough to really
take care of themselves.
To take care of themselves. You can be good at a few things, and people really only feel that big drive to put in the tons of effort and work it really takes to build yourself up and maintain that. And without some underlying mission behind it, it's pretty futile, it seems.
You've worked in modern medicine and Western medicine. You've been there firsthand and seen this. Where did the concept of Preamble come from? Why now, and why here in Scottsdale?
Yeah, the concept came from you get introduced to the medical system here. And you take it, you take it wholesale. Well, everything they give you, you believe, and I felt very comfortable as a young doctor, confidently reciting everything that had been recited to me back onto other people without much forethought. It makes me cringe thinking about how comfortable I was.
Did you believe it?
Yeah, I believed it, but in the sense of I wasn't naturally really questioning anything. I was a medical student, or I was a resident, being handed down the wisdom from up high, and I bought into the hierarchy at that age and didn't really question it. But there's something inherently wrong with it, right? There's a conflict at the root of what you're learning and then what you're seeing, and sometimes it took me years to develop it and question it enough, and until you start hearing people talk about the way that the current medical system was established, based around the presence of a disease, whether we're studying it or making medications for it or figuring out new treatments. And you start to realize that none of this work has really been done the decades before we get sick, right? None of the research, none of the things that we look at really really care to look into how do you prevent these illnesses from even starting? What's the root cause of that? And there's no discipline of medicine that handles us before we're sick, right? There's primary care, right? A good place to go to get your medicines, to get your disease checked up on, to manage all the other specialties that are feeding into you. But nobody is actually caring about how to look into key aspects of your health, how to direct you to, continue your exercise or nutrition, or just even look at it from a lifetime risk perspective on how do you avoid all this stuff in the first place and how do you stay healthy. So, realizing that, understanding when you take a person holistically and apply all this stuff, the big difference it makes, the things I've seen, firsthand doing this in the military, then it makes sense that this is coming. Plus, you can kind of feel the groundswell with public opinion and big books coming out recently. People are starting to understand this. It is shifting.
Yeah.
And the younger generation is even more health conscious than Gen
Our
X was or millennials. And we were the most kind of health conscious before us. So it's all trending in that direction. So this was the time to start it. And of course, in Scottsdale here, well, this is where we're from, and this is where the family's at. So nothing would tickle me more than being able to help kind of lead the Medicine 3.0 revolution and building a company in our hometown. That keyword Medicine 3.0, because that's really where it's at. It's one of those things, you mentioned preventative over and over and over again, and that's the key to where you start, right? You can't do anything unless you know what to start with. You really dive down to a molecular level. And what I love what you do, Dr. Greer, is every person's individual. So even, when we test diseases and medicine and stuff like that, it's a very generic what we're testing on. The elderly is affected by medicine differently than I am because of my age. Men and women ingest medicine differently at different ethnicities, but we don't study necessarily medicine like that. In fact, we're just kind of starting to for some of these. You're really talking about, and I love this, our bodies were created to take care of ourselves. It did it for centuries before. How are you going back to that holistic ways, but still working with us as individuals to find out about our needs, our body, and really what's going on? Well, yeah, I think that's one of the central tenets of Medicine 3.0 is the personalization of the analysis and then the application of treatment from there. So all the tests that are part of our big annual checkup that run through the standard medical practice, those are all population-based screening tools, right? So, just for example, they're going to look at something called an A1C test to see what your blood sugar control looks like. And this is a test that is cheap, and it's meant to screen hundreds of millions of people. Right. It is based on the assumption that your red blood cells live 90 days, and all results are based on the fact that red blood cells live hypothetically 90 days, but it doesn't take into account that people from varying ethnicities or backgrounds, their red blood cells can live much shorter than that or much longer than that. So you get these tests that apply to only a certain portion of the population and are very misleading in other parts, right? Yeah. And there's just very simple tools and technology that we have now to really help kind of define these key aspects of our health, like metabolic health, like blood sugar control, that give us a much more detailed picture, but these aren't really part of the screening process. So, as far as that's one example of how we, break down our analysis to the individual level, not looking at surrogates from good markers for population health, but for great representations of your individual health to build what your current profile is, right? That honest assessment of where you stand with, the key aspects of the things that affect your health. Well, let's talk. Okay. I'm going to come into you. I want to know the process from, hey, I'm Alicia Haygood, so nice to meet you, Dr. Greer, to this is what, Alicia, your body says, what you need, what your health risks are, disease and all that. Talk to me the process of working with you and what it's like to work in, because you're very specialized, and I love that, and you're very individualized when it comes to time with your patients, how you treat them, and what you're really looking at. Yeah. Well, it'll start with questionnaires. We do like to do a medical interview up front. So your past medical history, your family medical history is super important to what we do and what we want to look into, because you may have some unique risks or a family history that points us one way or another. right? How you feel subjectively is important. So there's a good amount of questionnaires that we do up front. We bring in and we do an extensive blood panel on you.
Okay.
We really like to look deep into metabolic health, and it's something I kind of hesitate on saying sometimes because it's such an unsexy, boring word. That
not
nobody
to you,
really,
it isn't.
No,
though.
not to me. We need to come up with a new one. I'm trying to find a new marketing word for metabolic health. But we do like to look deep into that. So not just an A1C to see what your last 3 months of blood sugar maybe were, but putting an actual continuous glucose monitor on you and seeing, having you record what you eat for 10 days so we can see what your actual blood sugar control looks like. If we like to look into insulin sensitivity, the thing that starts to go haywire before your blood sugar goes out of control. So maybe your blood sugar looks okay, right? But you're showing signs of insulin resistance, then I know that you're probably heading in the wrong direction because blood sugar is the next thing to catch up. We look at body composition to see if you're storing too much fat in your visceral compartment around your organs.
I'm working on it, doctor. I'm working on it.
Hey, we take on extra energy and it gets stored all around our body. That's one of the places it gets stored. And we look at all these places where, your body is accumulating excess energy, right? You've got this imbalance, and that's again all related to your metabolic health. I think it's important to look into people's inflammation. We do dig deep into cholesterol markers, whether people think that's bull crap or not. I don't really discriminate. I like to have that conversation with folks.
Yeah.
I think it's important, but it's also kind of a smaller piece to the big puzzle. We like to look deep into hormones as well. And, we get into other things like blood tests for, high risk genetic mutations, to help us create a custom cancer screening plan for you. It's important that we look at your body composition, in several ways. We like to do a DEXA scan up front because those are kind of the gold standard, helps us look at your bone health, but again, gives us that best look into where the fat's distributed, how much visceral fat do you actually have, what does your muscle mass look like? And we do a couple different types of body scans. We put all these things together. These things produce thousands of data points, and you can get stuff like this direct to consumer. And that's the big problem, is that they'll dump it back into your lap and just be like, here you go.
Now figure it out, read the labs and try to understand it.
Yeah, go take this to your primary care doctor who's got 4 minutes and tell them that you got some weird blood test off the internet and see if he cares.
That's so true and sad.
Yeah. But putting all that stuff together into the story that it tells, so what does all this mean?
Right.
And how is my metabolic health? Is it an A or B, a C? What is my actual cardiovascular risk? What's my risk of having a heart attack? My primary care doctor says my cholesterol is not that good and I should, do something about it. Like, what does that mean? But we can take better looks at your heart. There are, dirt cheap CT scans that can see if there's any old calcified plaque in your heart. Those are great tools for screening on some people. There's even more advanced tests that take a look inside the vessels of your heart and see if there's soft plaque forming. Right. So
next step kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who's got horrible cholesterol, maybe a family history of heart disease, you don't like statins, you think, the medical community pushing the ideal of cholesterol control is crap and big pharma. I don't completely disagree with you, but let's have that conversation. Maybe we look inside your arteries and see if you're the type of person who can, forego all the risk mitigation that we have available to us.
Let's talk about when you get these results back and you're diving down and stuff like that. What are some of the more common things that you're seeing amongst our population here in Scottsdale? Because it's even environment that affects your health, right? And blue zones is huge here right now, the whole health kind of thing, and studying that. Specific to us in Scottsdale, and what are you seeing right now? Yeah,
I think the people that select for us to come in here, to come into our office and see us are probably a bit more motivated than the average person. Yeah. They've usually been doing something. They usually back their way into us from, either getting a full body MRI or trying to find somebody to help them in this space. Yeah. And then they actually kind of, back into us. But these are folks who, know they need to make a change. They're motivated to make a change, and they come in. And our patients do range quite a bit. So
what's your average range? Yeah.
I mean, I'd say right down the middle is the 40 to 50-year-old males and females, right when God starts to play his joke on us by messing with our hormones.
I'm feeling it. Don't worry. I'm like 41 now, and it's like, wow, where did this come from? And I tell everyone it really is. And I want to ask you this. Is it really true that like every 10 years or so, like you change, like your body and your formula changes in you? Like, or is it pretty consistent based off of your lifestyle and what's affecting you?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of variations on that statement. Almost like the like every cell in your body changes. Every 7 years, or allergies shift like around those times in the 10 years. But I mean definitely around that the 40-year-old time frame, both men and women do start noticing quite a bit of
I mean,
feeling.
From
the body
how
changing.
I feel, how I sleep, how I handle anxiety, stress, all of that has changed since turning 40 for me.
Yeah. So, and that's really what people are seeing. They were healthy enough and active enough to be able to put their activities, lifestyle on hold while they were chasing a career or building a family. And, you do start looking like dad in the mirror or mom in the mirror, most of these folks,
true.
And most of the folks had, a history of being in shape or maybe being an ex-athlete, and then they're kind of motivated to get back in there. It's great. A lot of them have muscle memory, and it's a little bit easier for them sometimes. Most of the times I'd say. So these are the folks that are typically coming in here. And really what we find is that folks are really starting to suffer from metabolic related issues. Okay. So, they are getting an excess energy balance, which is kind of a nice way to say, you're consuming more than you're putting out, and your body is storing this extra energy, usually in the form of fat all over the damn place. And so it is usually, how do we get control of that? Because, that's a central theme to what we do is analyze and try to optimize metabolic health, because it is the core risk factor at all the big things that are going to kill us, kind of needlessly and ahead of our time. So, it's besides age and things like smoking, it's right up there with the number one risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Same thing with dementia. The idea of like almost the majority of all dementia, like Alzheimer's cases, being preventable from good blood sugar control, also, good cardiovascular health it's astounding how much how many cases they think can actually be reduced. It's like on the order of like 75% of
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Like being preventable. And even in the case of somebody who has the unfortunate like genetic mutations that makes them very highly what's the word I'm looking for? Very highly likely to have to get dementia or to get Alzheimer's. Even in those cases, with good metabolic health, it is extremely rare.
Let's talk about the people that maybe they feel like they are so overweight or so unheart healthy. Is it too late to start?
Oh, no, definitely not.
I mean, some people will be like, I could never go back to like that. When is the appropriate time to start? Is it today? It doesn't matter when, start sometime to do something.
Well, yeah. I mean, the best time to start was
yesterday,
20 years ago. The second best time is today, right?
Fair.
I agree. And look, there's motivation that is often fleeting and kind of leaves us stranded. It'll make us buy a gym membership and then doesn't follow up from that. So,
well, I'm even talking about, like the Ozempic, people that are trying to lose weight right now, or the weight loss ban or surgery and stuff like that. I'm all about whatever makes you feel good, but it's like sometimes these are very temporary things, and it's kind of like what you're just talking, the motivation falling off, right? Yes. And you get healthy, you get skinny, or you lose a bunch of weight, and it's like, great, now what are you going to do to maintain that and get healthier, to continue almost the quote-unquote anti-aging that you've done to your body?
Yeah, I again, and I think that it falls within, it's not motivational, right? It is in mindset shift. In
what
being
we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, what we talked about at the beginning. It's understanding your why, right? And if you understand your why, then the reason to take care of yourself is there, right? And it's more of a side effect than anything. We are very big on helping folks with practical tools to help implement this stuff into a busy lifestyle.
Which is great because I feel like that's such a big concern or a scare for people to start. It's like, I don't have time for this, right?
Yep.
I don't have time to exercise for an hour. I barely have time to like eat on the go or something like that. It's a mind shift. That's the word we keep using, and I totally agree with that. But it's more of like you giving us the faith to believe in ourselves, the possibility that it can happen, because you can't be upset about what you don't know, right? We're not doctors, not all of us. And if we're not coming to see you to learn from you, but we're making assumptions about what we know or read on the internet, our favorite place to learn everything, it's that realization of, I can do this.
Yes.
It's not too late to do this. And I love you too, Dr. Greer, because it's not like you're coming in and be like, I'm not really for you. It's like, no, I'm for everyone. I want to make sure that you live your best, healthiest life. I want to continue making sure that the rest of whatever you want out of life is capable for you, as kind of how you treat people. Scottsdale is a very healthy city as it is. What are you learning from people here in Scottsdale that you can take to other places that may not have the healthiest city? We're a very active city, which I love. We're always seeing people biking and hiking and outdoor running. I'm a hiker. I'm not a runner or a biker. With that, how is the environment shifting and the mentality shifting that you're seeing with people here?
Yeah, I'd say the folks that we've been seeing here in Scottsdale, very, very health conscious and very motivated to actually engage in something like this. Responding very well to the appropriate level of data, showing them feedback on key things. The ability to make some small adjustments in people's nutrition or their exercise.
Yeah. Talk about this, because I think it's interesting what you're doing with that.
Yeah. I mean, and to be able to have, such large observable changes that happen relatively quickly in some of these folks, and us to be able to record it and show it to them has been supremely motivating for a lot of folks. And a lot of times when we start things off like this, it's when we start things off at the beginning, perhaps we're having folks, record everything that they eat in an app, which is kind of cumbersome. We're in continuous glucose monitors, recording their exercise in detail or their sleep in detail. It could be seemingly unsustainable for a long time, right? And I agree with that, but people also really start to kind of understand the feeling of what right feels like.
Yeah.
And so they take these big kind of learnings into these next steps where they're not doing all that recording, and they're not doing all the
it's happening
analyzing.
naturally.
It's happening a bit more naturally.
Yeah.
And how do you keep supplementing and augmenting them to kind of make those changes so it becomes sustainable. And those things kind of continue as they come through. So we've been helping folks, and the things that I've been hearing too is a lot of how much they unlearn things, right? So where we get our information, or that, oh man, I was thinking, I had this long held belief that this was the only way I should be doing this forever, and I was able to put that aside. So that's really helped us change kind of our delivery or our message sometimes, just to like, hey, okay, so part of this isn't just me teaching you; it's also you coming in with the mindset of a humble student too, and I try.
It can be hard,
It can be hard, and I try to, I try to represent that myself and kind of all the ways that I look at this, and that always being open minded to it. So it's not like I'm a teacher here, and you need to be the student. We're both learning, but openness to changes or to learning new things, or exploring other avenues, and people have been really willing to do that and learn some great stuff.
Diet and exercise, it's really the key to everything in life. It's how we live our life. It's how we feel. It's what affects our day-to-day and everything we do. What's a simple piece of advice that you could leave us with when it comes to that? Yeah,
I'd say probably one on each. Nutrition, I've noticed, and I don't know, this is going to sound like a let them eat cake moment, but as far as the nutrition goes, a lot of the folks that we see do have okay financial resources, right? They work a lot. There's not a lot of time, and they have no strategy at all with how they're going to eat.
Yeah.
right? So it is, scarfing down breakfast before I get out of the house, or, not eating in the morning, and then I'll eat around 11, and then you're, going to whichever local strip mall to get a hoagie, or, you're kind of just fighting for it day to day. So the idea of meal prepping for them is daunting. It is, and it's daunting to me as well. But there's, there are great services out there too, which make meals which are just good enough to eat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that are just good enough to eat. So part of it is kind of putting away, your like the desire to have a lustful, delicious meal at every sitting, right? There needs to be consistency in our nutrition and exercise, and it usually looks a little bit boring. The best you can hope for is like a steady B-, right? Okay. Something to put in your mouth enough and kind of hitting those.
Get rid of that hangry headache or something like that.
Yeah. And then, so you have more days in the week where you're actually eating the macronutrients, the proteins that, that you needed to. And it wasn't so bad that you didn't do it. So these types of meal services like that, whether it's having one delivered to your door, we've got a great partner that does that. So our clients get, they get credits towards that, and they get discounts on that. But there's other places, and I have no affiliation with somebody like Phoenix Clean Eats, where you can go in store, buy a bunch of the boxes, put them in your fridge, take them to work with you.
Yeah.
And a lot more cost effective, doing something like that. So that is a huge unlock if you can find a sustainable way of prepping the majority of your weekday meals, especially your breakfast and lunch, because when you put all the macronutrient goals, and usually I'm just harping on protein for the most part, unless somebody's a little bit metabolically challenged, then we get into the carbs. But, just making sure you're getting most of that protein in those first couple meals and that they're accounted for and planned for, that's the sustainable way to do it. Next thing you know, you look up, a few months have passed, you've dropped quite a bit of body fat. And it's crazy how many people are just under consuming protein. They don't even change their workout routines, and they just gain like significant amounts of muscle mass because why? I can only assume that their body was just hungry for the proper nutrients to build muscle. So we have folks who are they just golf for their exercise, putting like in their 70s, putting on 6 pounds of muscle in 4 months.
And that's huge.
Yeah, but their body was missing protein. And so that's kind of the one big hack I would say for that. 2, people really underwork their base level cardio. You hear people like Peter Attia talk about zone 2 exercise.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest piece missing from most people's workouts, right? Hey, I only get a chance to go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, so I just do an Orange Theory class. I leave totally, tired. I'm sore the next day. It's great, and
it's great.
Well, I mean, it was my workout.
I feel like I did something because I'm sore and tired.
And Orange Theory is great, but there's also hours of base level cardiovascular work that is missing from everybody's week. And so that is the exercise that drives your metabolic improvement. That's the exercise that helps you burn more fat at rest. That's the exercise that just burns the most fat in general. Yeah. Right? That's the exercise that really increases the amount of maximum oxygen that we can pull in our lungs, our VO2 max, the kind of the holy grail for metrics of like, if you want a longevity metric, it's how big is your VO2 max? The bigger
I just cringed. I'm like, probably not a lot for me.
But the bigger it is, the with more certainty I can tell you that you're not going to die from any cause in the next 20 years, right? So these things is base level cardio, and some people call it zone 2. And we really like to bring our folks in. We like to put masks on them, not in a sadistic way, but so we can put them on a treadmill and do some low grade exercise with them, and we can pinpoint exactly where, with their heart rate or level of exertion, where they are burning the most amount of fat, where they're getting that most metabolic improvement from these. And so if you're limited on the amount of time that you can work out, you've got 45 minutes. It should be 45 minutes, most days of the week to achieve that base level cardio, right? And so whether it's putting a treadmill at home, figuring out a routine where you can put on a weight vest and walk around your neighborhood, whatever the secret is for people in their lifestyles, they have to understand where that most efficient zone is for the most important part of their cardio, that base, especially if they have metabolic issues, and so they can maximize their time in that space.
All right. Well, you're on to something. That's why it's Medicine 3.0. We're working on the future, and it really is getting back to what our body was meant to do. And I think we lost track and lost our way with that. And we're going to host an exclusive event, Scottsdale City Lifestyle and Dr. Jesse Greer. We're going to host an event at his location here in Old Town, Medicine 3.0 with Dr. Jesse Greer. It's happening on Thursday, April 11th from 6 to 7:30. We have the link directly to this event on the description of this episode, as well as the YouTube channel where you can watch this video podcast. So go sign up because there is limited space and we want to make sure you get out there. You'll get time to meet Dr. Greer yourself. Meet other people in the community that want to work together and live our best life, because that's what we're here to do, right? Whatever we have left, we want to make sure it's the best quality. So thank you for what you do and for taking the time to teach our community what we do.
Of course.
Before we leave, my last question I ask everyone that comes on, and because you're a Scottsdale native, I'm interested to hear what this is going to be. But what is your favorite Scottsdale vibe? What's your favorite thing about Scottsdale? It's like the only question I get every person quiet on. They're like, hey, wait, I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe let's see if I can back my way into it. It was clear when I left the military in 2019, that we were coming to Scottsdale.
Okay.
I guess it is the vibe, the neighborhood. It is a great place to raise a family.
Yeah.
My family's here, so it also made it even easier to come here for that. But I guess the tranquility and peace of driving around in Scottsdale in the morning. I usually drive down Hayden Road. There's often a bald eagle across from Chaparral Park.
Oh, how cool!
Sitting up there, it's a little bit motivating in the morning. You're gonna have a good day.
Talk about inspirational.
Yeah. But it was the ideal place to raise a family. I have great memories from growing up here in the schools, going to the public schools here and just how great they were.
Yeah.
So I was, seeing how things are in other parts of the country, maybe not a good comparison since I was always at military bases.
You always are seeing the worst,
but it was, it was an easy decision. Just the ease of living and the availability to the outdoors, the ability to get up into the mountains in 2 hours, to the beach in 4, and
that's us. I mean, we love it for that same reason. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Greer. Don't forget to go sign up for the event. We're going to come right back after this short break with some calendar of events. Stay tuned. When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust. And that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. Well, we all love our health. I mean, let's be real. That's why we're here and continue living our life. So please come to the event. It's an exclusive event with Scottsdale City Lifestyle Magazine, as well as Dr. Jesse Greer here in Old Town at his office. Again, click the link in the description of this episode or on our YouTube channel if you're watching the video episode, because there is limited space. We're going to get to talk to him, have a one-on-one, meet other people in the health industry. There'll be some delicious, of course, healthy Mediterranean food for us to snack on, and I will be there, of course, to welcome you all. So that is, again, happening on Thursday, April 11th from 6 to 7:30. But coming up this weekend is AZ Bike Week at Westworld. So get those revving. Those engines will be revving. You'll be hearing the bikers come in through town. You can get weekly passes or day passes. There's going to be events happening every day, concerts Wednesday through Saturday, charity bike rides, and more. So it's another opportunity to hang out and meet some motorcycle guys out there. And, of course, basketball for all you March Madness fans out there. Let's be real. There has been some crazy upsets this season. season. So starting April 5th through 8th, there are concerts, fan fest, and plenty of basketball events happening. Be sure to check the list of events, get your tickets in advance so you're not waiting in line, and plan accordingly, as there's always sure to be a big traffic jam or some sort, and especially everything on the 101 with the construction. Just prepare accordingly. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and we will be here next week with a brand new episode. Have a great week, Scottsdale. Keep vibing, and I'll see you around town.